Okay, so today I'm gonna start in on this space drawing or receding scale drawing. And I was gonna draw my cup, but for you to be able to see what I'm looking at, I've just printed a little picture of the cup. First thing that I did was before I took the pictures, I made sure I had a strong spotlight on it so that I got some good defined shadows and a little bit more drama in there. And I've got my white charcoal pencil, my black charcoal pencil, a blending stump, a little one, although I don't use that very much. I probably want to have an eraser with me as well. I'm starting on a gray paper, so it says on the instructions that if you're using white paper, you should tint your paper. But with the gray paper, I don't really have to. I can start right in with it. I'm choosing the white charcoal pencil to start my drawing because it's a little easier to erase and get rid of the lines later than the black charcoal pencil. And I would start with something that I feel like I can handle. I'm just going to look at this top of the cup and sort of imagine what it might feel like for my pencil to actually touch that. I would do this in a drawing from observation as well. But once I kind of get an idea about what that curve feels like, I'll come over to my paper and I'm going to sort of start to make that curve. Once I get about half of it in there, I don't really feel like I have to look here as much anymore, but just duplicate that curve on the other side. And that's a strategy that I use with all symmetrical objects as I kind of draw half and I stop worrying about this and start worrying about what I've drawn on my paper. You can also see that there's a little thickness to that edge, so I might come in and do a second line to begin with right away so that I get that sense of there being some thickness there. And I've kind of made a few little errors over on this side, but I'm not going to worry about that too much because look at how dark that area is going to be eventually. Then I'm going to look at this edge, same way that I would kind of like imagine what it'd be like to touch it. I'm going to kind of draw that line and it kind of comes down and in. And because I'm looking slightly down on it, even though I know that that cup comes out at the base, it doesn't really look like it's coming out at the base. I'm going to keep this line sort of straight as it comes down. And then I have another curve here at the bottom. I want to make sure that that curve is at least as curved as this top curve, and maybe even a little bit more because it's actually further away from my eyes, so it might curve even a little bit more. And again, I want to get about half of it, kind of imagine where that half point is, and then finish it on the other side so that it looks symmetrical on my paper. Then I'd look at this line and I'd try to recreate that line on the other side. And there I've got the outline of the base of the cup. Got to add the handle in here on the side. And it's a little small, hard for me to see there, but it looks like it overlaps this edge a little bit. And then I can look at this negative shape, which is like half of a heart with a little indent right there. So I'm going to make that little indent. I'm going to look at that orange shape to try to get a sense of how that curves up and curves down. So while I know that I'm drawing the handle, I'm really looking at this orange shape right in here in order to get that contour the way that I want. It also has thickness. So I'm going to go on the other side and start to draw that thickness. But what I notice is that as I get to here, this thickness is going to come out, and that's going to translate from the top of the handle to the inside of the handle, which is dark, and the top of the handle, which is light. So I'm going to pull that line out, and then that thickness starts to kind of go away. I don't really see the thickness once I get past that halfway point, and it's going to come in, and it's going to kind of curve this way as it hits the inside. I got another contour up here that's going to connect with that point. So start there, kind of work my way back and forth, and I've got the handle that looks like it's turning. Now I'm into the shading portion. I've got my outlines. I'm pretty happy with my proportions. And I told the class that remember that even though this drawing doesn't look exactly like the shape of this cup, no one's going to come and ask to see the cup. If I get it close and it looks symmetrical and believable, I don't have to worry about whether it looks exactly like that cup or not. My piece has been lit from the side. It was being lit from over here. And so we know that light travels in straight lines. And so it wouldn't be natural that the cup would be lighter on this side, closer to my light source, and get darker as it moves away. I might also find that some light might go past the cup, bounce off like a box, and come back and reflect so that I get a little reflected light on this side. And then I want to look more closely and find some details, some things that I can't predict. My job as an artist is not just to show people what they expect to see, but the things that they don't normally notice about things. So I'm going to look very closely and try to find little things that I think people might miss, like this little teeny darkness right off the edge, or this little teeny highlight right up in here, and how this has this light, but the shape of this dark that's in there as well. And so I would probably start with my white charcoal pencil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to look for where those lights are. And the edge, this top edge, that has some lightness to it that works its way across. And then over here, it gets really light. So I'm going to put a little extra pressure on there. And that thickness that I got from making a couple of mistakes is kind of working to my advantage there. So I'm just going to gently start getting those things in there. I also noticed that by the handle, I've got like a little bit of light here. Pencil probably needs to be sharpened, so I'm going to have to kind of adjust here. But then there's also this little light section that works its way down the edge, and it's pretty bright. So I'm going to lean on this a good bit here as it moves its way down the cup. And then, of course, this whole section down here is lighter than the green glaze that's above it. So I might come in and give that whole section just a light tone, and I'll come over that later to make some sense of roundness in there. But if I start with the big idea that this is going to be more gray and this is going to be a lighter section, then I'll be able to get that pretty easily. I also noticed that while this is curving this way, and so I've got light on this side and then dark on this side, that inside it's just reversed. It's the exact opposite. So inside here, I've got a light section and it looks kind of like this. I'm just going to give it like a light pressure. I'm not going to make it really dark because if I make it, I'm not going to use a whole lot of pressure. So if I use a whole lot of pressure, I'm probably going to have to come back and make some adjustments to that. Then I come in with my black charcoal pencil, and sometimes I do this kind of without thinking about it, but I remember that I saw that little dark shadow there, and just putting that little edge in there seems to help. I also notice a little bit right here, so I'm going to kind of like almost like outline this, and I'm just barely touching the paper. And then on the outside of the rim on this side, but on this side only, I notice that it gets a little bit darker. So I'm going to put that in there. Then this whole section in the middle feels like round, and then I'm getting that dark section that really works its way almost all the way up to the edge. So I'm going to go right over that line. You notice I'm kind of changing the directions of my marks here, but I do want these marks to feel like they're going around. I don't want them to be flat, and that's going to add to that sense of this cup feeling round. So I'm going to get right up to my edge, that line that I drew before, by going vertically. And then when I come back and cross hatch, I'm going to try to make those lines feel like they're running around the cup itself. So a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And in that middle of the cup, it gets really dark. So I'm going to push my darks here because I always want to have a good range of darks. Up by the lip, it also looks like it gets a little extra dark in that area. So I'm going to push that as well. I'm starting to get some variety here, but it still feels a little bit flat to me. So over here, I'm going to come over that light section just gently and build up what looks like a little shadow going around like that. And again, right up to that edge. Then in here, down by the base of the cup handle, there's a little dark shadow and it's got a shape and it comes up. And I might even go over some of that white to kind of unify this whole cup up towards the top and build that layer in. Sometimes I think people think, oh, once you've done something, that's it. But I can always come back and then come back and brighten that back up. But now I've got that light area or the gray a little darker than the paper so that it feels a little bit more like this is the green part of the cup and that's the tan part of the cup itself. Top of the handle, I see like a little dark line, almost like it's outlining it, and then it gets dark on here on the edge, and then it's going to come around, and then once it starts to go past that section, the handle itself becomes really dark. So I'm going to go ahead and push that because I want to have a good range of value from light all the way to dark. And then up here, I see like almost like a little triangular shape in there. And we're just going to give that a subtle tone. And then come back with my white charcoal pencil. And here, it's really bright. So I maybe shouldn't have gone over that with the black first. But now I'm looking for little highlights here and there that I can find to get that to feel like it's bending and it's getting round. Inside of the cup, here's where I'm going to get that sense of it all feeling round. It's just reversed. It's light on this side and it's dark on that side. But on the inside, it's dark on this side and light on that side. And I can push it so it's even darker towards the edge and try to get this curve to be exactly what I want it to be. And then let that kind of spill over into that area. Make that rim look a little bit brighter. So I'm accentuating what I know should be happening there. And I'm making this a little bit lighter and this even a little bit darker. And I have built up my lights and darks to start to get that first cup going. Now, if I want to get this in space, I can do something like throw a horizon line behind it. I can start thinking about adding a cast shadow here, darker than the base of the cup. Notice how once I start doing that, the whole thing starts to really feel like it's sitting on a plane instead of just in space. And I can be creative at this point. I can start thinking about, okay, what's in this space? Am I going to do a tree? Am I going to do a desert landscape and what have you? But here's where I would start to push the idea of the space and the scale. I might take my cup and put it in a different position so that it looks more like a mirror image of this, or maybe even another object that's in there. But if I draw it again quickly for you, here up higher in the page and a little bit smaller, once I come in and start shading this guy, I'm going to get a sense that this cup is further away from me than this cup. This one has the majority of the detail. This one's a little smaller, higher up on the page, and further back. So it's going to start to appear to be a little bit further away from me, and therefore I might not do as much shading on this one so that it feels like there's more atmosphere between me and that cup than there is here. So more shading, more contrast here, a little bit less shading, and then another horizon line, another cup, much smaller and higher up. I probably won't have very much room to do much of anything with that. And then I can start getting that sense of foreground, middle ground, and background with some nice shading exercise. All right, that's it for now.